Hello, everyone. On behalf of OneFuture Coachella Valley and Gent Alliance Committee, we welcome you to the Gent Alliance Program High School Welcome. My name is Jarvis Crawford. I am a co-chair of the Gent Alliance Committee and manager of the James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center with the City of Palm Springs. We would like to congratulate all of our high school students for being selected as inaugural Gent Alliance High School cohort. In time, you will understand the honor and significance of having been selected to participate in this program. Your decision to be with us today is that starting point towards preparing for your high school, college, and career goals. Our vision as a committee is to improve the success outcomes of young men in the Coachella Valley by engaging local businesses, education, and civic partners to align services and resources to increase high school and college persistence, retention, and completion rates. We are committed to your success in life. As you will hear from the presenters today, you have a team ready to assist you. We want to take a moment to also thank Bighorn Charities and Priscilla and Chuck Porter for their generous support and continued partnership in advancing the success outcomes of our male students in the region. We are honored to be working with you and look forward to helping more of our male students graduate from high school, pursue a higher education, and enter the local workforce in the coming years.
Thank you, Jarvis. Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. My name is Bob Canby, and I'm also a co-chair of the Gent Alliance Committee and the Director of Business Relations at Avid Physical Therapy. As Jarvis shared, our goal as a committee is to improve the outcomes of our young men in the Coachella Valley. We welcome you and look forward to working with you over the coming years and one day celebrating your transition into college and your career. Today, you will hear from current Gent Alliance college students regarding the support and opportunities available to you, in addition to meeting other students that will be participating in the program across this valley this year. Remember, this is your event and program. We encourage everyone to participate and take advantage of the resources and opportunities being presented to you.
Our mission is to graduate students prepare for college, career, and life. And one of our initiatives this year, for the last couple of years, has been the Gent Alliance Initiative. And this year, we started working with our local school district, our business partners, and higher ed partners to create this initiative. We're working with students that are graduating from the 8th grade, going into their freshman year, and being as part of this amazing cohort of Gent Alliance as well. So thank you, Ernie, for the first screen. Can you please move on to the next one, please? So our mission for the Gent Alliance team is to improve the college access completion rates of young men in the Coachella Valley. The Alliance will engage local business partners, as I mentioned before, our local school districts, our civic partners, which can be our local leaders in the community, to develop services and resources for our students to increase college access rates among our young men. The initiative and the program is linked to the Coachella Valley workforce development strategies outlined in the regional plan for college and career success. As you can see the picture here, this is some of our Gent Alliance last year. Unfortunately, this year, the college stand-up had to be virtually. But as you can see on your screen, that's some of our young men last year who were part of the Gent Alliance, and which you would also hear two of our Gent Alliance members who were part of the Gent Alliance initiative last year as well for the college standoff. Once again, I would like to thank our supporters this year as well. Bighorn Cares Charity, and as well as Chuck and Priscilla Porter Charity Trust as well. Thank you for your support, and without you today, this wouldn't be made possible. So thank you once again. So next, we will have Agustina Riola, who would be going over defining your goal. He would be providing some tips and tools on how to help you succeed in high school as well. So,
as Luis mentioned, Luis, once again, thank you for that introduction. What I want to go ahead and talk about is defining your own cool. And this concept came about when Ernie and I were discussing what I'd be presenting on or talking about today. And I put myself, what was it, like 9 years ago when I was in middle school, I want to say 10 years ago. So not so long, and kind of what I thought was cool back then and kind of what defined my road to where I'm at right now. And so in talking to Ernie, we were like, okay, let's define your own cool and kind of how that leads to the path that you take in middle school and high school and even in college. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Agustina Riola. I'm currently working at Live to Rise as their senior implementation manager, particularly in the rental assistance. So right now, because of the pandemic, what I'm doing is helping oversee the review of applications for folks in the Coachella Valley who are applying for rental assistance. I went to Desmeraj High School, graduated in the top 10. You'll see a couple of pictures from high school from where I graduated, and then went to UCLA. I went ahead and shared the basketball picture, not because I thought it was cool, but because these are some of the folks that I consider my brothers. These are some of the men in my life that, you know, regardless of where we're at in life, we always held each other accountable. We had each other's back, and we kind of all have gone to college and have been doing amazing things. And so I'll share a little bit about where all my friends are at. What I'm doing. My presentation is cut into 3 segments. The first one is kind of my early on story, kind of where I grew up, where I'm from, the elementary schools that I attended, and kind of a defining moment in my life. I don't have pictures of that because I just realized that I'm terrible at taking all the pictures throughout my life and recording memories. So I'll be more mindful about that. But all these pictures that you see here are like pictures that I've acquired through my friends that they'll send once they take. But to go ahead and get started, so I'll talk about my life. Then I'll talk about middle school and high school, which I think is a major component of the presentation, and kind of offer some tips of how to make the most of middle school and high school, how to define your own cool, and how to influence other people. When you know that you're in charge of your own person, you kind of have this charisma that carries on to other people, right? And so when you can do that, no matter what you're interested in, no matter what you're doing, you'll see that friends, you're going to have a lot, and you're going to have friends from different circles or groups. And it's going to be a worthwhile in middle school and in high school. And just to get a feel of where everybody is at, can you go ahead and comment in the chat box, whether you're an 8th grader or a 9th grader or a 7th grader? Okay, we have freshmen, juniors, cool. Awesome. Okay, so high school, no middle school. Okay, perfect. So I think in high school, and all you watching the presentation will probably be able to attest to this, middle school was interesting. High school is even more interesting. But high school is kind of like the defining moment where you get to see what you enjoy, what you like doing, and where you can go ahead and go. So I'll go ahead and start where my early childhood. I was born in Mexico at the age of 3. My parents migrated to the United States, and I've been living in Thermal for about 23 years now, so in the Eastern Coachella Valley. As you saw, I went to Desmeraj High School. All throughout elementary, I had the support of both my mom and dad. And then come 5th grade, we were involved in a car accident. So we're a family of 5. I have a twin sister, and then I have a little sister who's actually working with me right now. In the program grade, my family was involved in a car accident. And I think back to the past, and those are things that I thought about as a little kid, was how would it be if I lived without a parent, or if I lost a parent. And while in 5th grade, my dad was involved in we were in a car crash, and my dad passed away. He didn't make it. And from that moment on, being in the Latinx family, culture, community kind of puts a pressure on a young guy, right? I think we don't talk about it often, but there's this stigma that as men, we have to be tough. We have to like take head on everything. We can't show any emotions. And so you internalize all that trauma, right? You kind of internalize and you want to become this tough guy, because it's what society is telling you. It's what you see in the movies. It's all these different things, right? And so in 5th grade, when my dad passed away, I had community members, family members, friends, all from a place of love, telling me that I was the man of the house. I was 11 years old, going on 12, and just constantly kept hearing this, like, you have to be strong because you're the man of the house. You have to make sure that your mom and your sisters can count on you. You have to help provide when you're old enough. You have to do all these things, right? You have to follow this certain path that society is telling you that you have to do. And I don't know what it was in me. I think it was just the friends that I had and on all the family, but it never felt right to be like, why should I always be strong? Why can't I show any emotion? Why can't I talk about my feelings? And especially with my friends, you know, if I consider you my bro, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my feelings, and vice versa. I'm going to want you to talk about how you're feeling and what you're going through, because that's the only way that you're going to grow in a relationship with your friends, right? Okay, so early on in my childhood, and I'll talk about this picture right now, I mentioned about the car crash. I mentioned about being kind of dealing with this internal pressure and trauma of being constantly told that I had to be the man of the house, not feeling like I was going to be the man of the house. I was not secure about, you know, how thin I was. I was a pretty skinny dude. And so always having people telling me like, you have to be able to defend your sisters. I've never had to get in a situation where that has to happen, right? And it's we all have different ways of dealing with things, but all these comments that I was hearing from folks kind of internalized and didn't come out until college. And I'll explain a little bit what that was like and how I moved through that. But in middle school and in high school, my outlet for, you know, wanting to make up for my dad's absence or for making my mom proud was, you know, doing good in school. I tell my friends often that no matter where you're at in life, you always have two options, right? No matter what the situation you're placed in, no matter who you're talking to, no matter where you're at, you always have two options. You have the option that is going to benefit you down the road and along your life, and that's going to help you prepare for success. And you have the option that might take you a completely different route that you can't really control, right? And so no matter how you look at it, I always that's something that I had from an early on age, was kind of seeing things that there's always two options. There's always something that you can do regardless of how bad you think a situation is, or regardless of how good you think a situation is. And so in high school and middle school, I was getting involved in all sorts of clubs, getting involved in ASB, was executive vice president, did sports. Although I was benched more often than not, I still enjoyed and loved sports, and my friends never made fun of me. We always played basketball, pick up sports. But, you know, my friends were just really good at basketball. And I happened to be the one that, you know, out of the 6 or 7 teams, players that were on the bench, who happened to be on the bench more often than not. But I made up for it somewhere else, right? I was the, what is it called? I was a pep rally guy. Folks around school knew me as the guy who was the pep rally master of ceremonies, who was an ASB, who was just involved and all around in hanging out with different groups of friends. And that's when I started to realize too, that like, I didn't need to fit in, right? Like if I was my own person, I could hang out with whoever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and take the good from everything, right? So I had friends who were athletes. I had friends who were musicians. I had friends who were into politics and all these different things, who I really enjoyed. These are some of the things that I did along high school, and hopefully you guys can get something from that. I always had this idea of not necessarily imitating, but asking people who inspired me, who motivated me, or who I looked up to go ahead and mentor me. I see Jarvis is on here. Jarvis is someone that I just recently met, but Jarvis is someone that's cool, right? He's from Palm Springs. If there's any questions that I had about the West or car meets, I follow him on Facebook, and something that I enjoy, I'm gonna go ahead and talk to him and ask him about what he thinks about cars and all these cool things that he's doing right for the community, because I look up to him, right? And similarly, Ernie or other guys on here, like, it's cool to be able to do that, right? And more than likely or not, Jarvis, if I were to ask you a question about your cars or something, how likely would it be for you to go ahead and talk to me and even form this mentorship or this friendship?
It would be very much of a great conversation I would love to have, because we're going to be talking about something that I love and something that I really look into doing.
Thank you. So tip number 1, always do that, right? Find people that inspire you, that you think you might like, and ask them for their opinion. Ask them for something that, you know, they can share. They have a lot of knowledge. The other thing is I was constantly trying new sport or new things, right? Whether it was a new class, new sport. I mentioned I did basketball, football, swimming, because the reality is that you won't know what you like and are good at until you try it. And along the way, have fun. I have so many embarrassing and funny stories from high school and middle school that now make up great conversation starters. And I think any adult any other adult here in the presentation can probably agree with that, right? It's middle school and high school goes in a blur, but those stories and those memories that you make up for great conversation starters. And so when something happens to you that's funny or that you want to forget about, like think about down the road how this is going to be something that will have either impacted you, influenced you, or helped you make a decision for whatever you're studying. I wanted to share about UCLA too, and kind of like my road there. So this is my family. About half of these folks traveled from Mexico to see for my graduation, to visit me to congratulate me on my graduation, and the other half live in San Diego. And this is just 1/4 of the family. But these are my friends. These are the friends who made it worthwhile in college, who I had, who I was able to talk to, who I was able to ask for advice, who we helped each other around the class. No matter what they were interested in, like we always had something to connect about, right? And so I just wanted to give a shout out. I was able to go to college with my twin sisters. This one thing that I wanted to leave you all with. I put this picture because I grew up in a low income community class, and the first two cars that we had the first cars that I have memory of. So my dad was earning, I think, maybe $12,000 to $15,000 a year for a family of 5. And the cars that he would get never had AC. So he would always buy used cars, and they never had AC. And if you live here in the Coachella Valley in the summer, you know how bad it is to be driving a car with no AC. And so for me, as I was growing up, and one of the things that I always thought about is like, I'm gonna get a car that has an AC. Like I didn't care what car I got. I didn't care. For me, it was I'm gonna get that car that has an AC where I'm not like getting in it and like having to put the windows down and having the fresh or the hot air beat my face. It was gonna be a car that has AC. And just last year, I was able to purchase this car. My favorite color with AC. Just kind of wanted to show the picture behind the meaning behind that picture. But the other thing that I want to leave you with is start now. In high school, I started looking at colleges. I talked to Ernie, or I've known Ernie for a while now, about the different things that you could do as you are navigating either going to college, doing a vocational career, starting your own business, doing what you like and what you enjoy and what's going to make you happy. You can do that now, right? Oftentimes we're told we're too young to do certain things, and the reality is that the older you get, you realize that people who are telling you that you're too young to do things might not necessarily have had the same opportunities of you, or might not have had a mentor or a family member or something. And you're now in a place where all of us, Jarvis, Ernie, Ricardo, Luis, Jose, Cruz, if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have a friend, if you don't feel like you can go and talk to someone, you have us, right? You're part of a group where men are going to be supporting you, women are going to be supporting you, and we're going to be able to do things and accomplish a lot more. But you have to start now. You start trying out new things, start visiting schools, start talking to people like me, like Ernie, and seeing kind of what you like doing. I like what Diego Diaz put, and Jack, start now. Age isn't a barrier. And there's a lot of great ways to explore careers. Kimberly put that out. But I think I want to go ahead and see if there's anything else that I had in the presentation. I wanted to end with this picture. Kind of like, for me, my own cool was my friends, my school career, and kind of where I'm at right now. These are the coworkers, and this is the office that I work in. You'll recognize Ricardo, Julio, and some other people here in these pictures. But thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Agustin. Really thank you for those kind words, and really defining the goal for our local students and the students here in the audience today through Zoom. I just wanted to piggyback off your comment, defining your goal. I think as a student, students, you should look at this as in a way you define your own goal. You define who you are as a person. You define choosing the person you want to be. Whether you want to hang out with the cool kids, with the smart kids, that's all about you define who you are. Defining who you're going to define going to college is cool, because why? You're going to be the first one to go to college. You don't want to go to college, you can go to a vocational school or university. Whatever you want to do, you define the person you want to be, and you define the cool person you want to be. And you want to I also recommend, connecting with individuals, connecting with us, connecting with your counselor, connecting with your principal is who you are, and you define yourself as a person, So as Agustin mentioned, connecting with the right people, it's gonna lead you to greater and bigger things, and really even eventually lead you to having the car you always wanted, a Honda. Like Agustin has a Honda, I have a truck, for the last, but it took me several years to get there. But also know that we're here to support you the next 4 years of your career in high school and beyond. So without further ado, Agustin, once again, thank you. And just remember, students, we're here to support you for the next 4 years. And even after you graduate high school, we're here for you as well. So just know you have me as a support system. You have your counselors, your principals, your district officials as well, your community members that believe in you. And that's just the reason why we developed this program, because we believe in you and we want you to succeed, not just in high school, but in your university, your job placement, and in life in general. We want you to succeed and be a successful individual in the community, to come back and mentor other students in the community as well. So thank you, Agustin, for those kind words. Really giving a overview of your brief of your life. Um, Welcome everybody. As you all know, my name is Luis Rojas. I work for OneFuture Coachella Valley. I am the data analyst and I oversee the whole scholarship component. I'm also a local student. Just to provide some background, I graduated from Coachella Valley High School in 2010. After graduating high school, I decided to go to college, just to go to college, and really just I just knew I wanted to go to college and didn't even knew what I wanted to do, but decided to go to college. And after 4 years at College at Desert in 2014, I was able to graduate and earn two AA degrees and transfer to California State University, San Bernardino campus, where I earned a bachelor's degree in psychology, and now I'm currently working at OneFuture Coachella Valley, and also for the Riverside County Office of Ed. So it's also a pleasure just to be here today and share my experiences, and also with this panel today, two of our very own Gens Alliance members, Jose Chicas and Cruz Hernandez, who would be speaking about their experiences, talking about life, their high school experience, college, their transition from college to their high school transition to high school to college, and also what are they currently doing right now. What are some of the next steps? Both of them are close to graduating in the next couple of months. What then their major they're deciding to go. So without further ado, Jose and Cruz Hernandez, before we start, can you please provide a little introduction about yourself? Who are you? And where you both come from? That's really important to share our students here today and envision themselves as future college students, just like yourself today. So if you can share first, Jose, if you can go first, and then Cruz, if you can go next, and we'll start off the discussion around our panel today.
Okay. So my name is Jose Chicas, and I graduated from Desert Hot Springs High School in 2016. So I originally grew up in Indio and was born in Indio. And one of my defining moments, I would say, that really made me pursue education, like just for a form of reference, was growing up. I didn't like school. I just didn't like going to school, and my dad would fight with me. So he would, when he would leave me, I would try to run out the gate. And one day he was just like, you know what? Fine. If you don't want to go to school, you can come to work with me. And my dad was a landscaper, which is, a common job in the valley. And I was going with him from house to house. And at the end of the day, he was like, so like I was about 6 years old. So, just at that time, he was, so what'd you think about that? Do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Do you want to, work in these hard conditions for little to nothing and like, do this for the rest of your life, even though you were born here and you have the opportunity to get a free education? And I was like, you're right. He's like, look, I just want you to appreciate the fact that you were born here and you have the opportunity to get a free education. And if you put your, if te ponen las pilas, like, if you put yourself and motivate yourself, you can, go to any university you want. Like anyone's going to choose you and get a full ride scholarship. And from there on, he was just like, don't you want to work in an air-conditioned office and not in the 100-degree weather? And not back then, it wasn't as hot, but now, yeah. And that was kind of my defining characteristic of, as a young child, I'm a strive towards higher education, just by doing my best in school and, just keeping my head down and just doing what I have to do. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you, Jose. Cruz, can you share that about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Cruz Hernandez, and right now I'm a fourth year at UCLA studying political science. And I actually grew up in the Salton City area. So I'm not sure if any of you guys know where that's at, but a super small population in the middle of nowhere. But anyhow, um, I'd say growing up, I spent some time in Desert Hot Springs up until second grade. And then, well, I've lived the rest of my high school, middle school, and elementary years in Salton City. However, I think when it boils down to three things that were definitely vital in my development as just a person and professional was essentially three things. And the first, just to give you a brief overview, was my father was actually deported from my household when I was in second grade, right? And so then I'd face a ton of obstacles until I would graduate high school. So with him being deported, again, I lived very, very poor, I guess you could say, impoverished. And when I mean impoverished, I mean literally completely poor from second grade to about almost near time I graduated, where I moved 20 plus times, was homeless at times as well. And even there's no electricity or water for a good majority of that time too. And I smile because if I look to where I am today and how I've helped and developed, I'm sort of proud of it as well. So that's where I come from. And even then, a lot of my household was filled with crime and I guess you could say drug abuse as well. And statistically speaking, I'm not supposed to be in college. Statistically speaking, I'm actually supposed to either be incarcerated or dead or very, very having medical issues, right? So I think growing up through that, and I'll touch more on it as we get into this discussion, but I thought I'd highlight all of that because it really shows one thing. And I mean, I want you guys to be able to see from my perspective, you guys are in a position where you can utilize your education where you're at right now to take you wherever you want to go. It's just if you focus right now through that small time period you have, these 4 years, whether you're a freshman, eighth grade, whatever, in high school right now, this is the easiest time you will ever have in your entire life to create what it is you want to do. And whether you want to leave the environment you grew up in, but also give back to make the change you want to see. So I'm glad to be able to be here today with you guys. I mean, I would take time anytime to just be able to speak with you guys and help. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Cruz. Thank you, Jose. It really hits home for me with your comments. And just to go back to your speaking, Cruz, about education and how that's really important for our students today that are a part of the Zoom meeting. And this is the high school welcome first event. We had events previous to this, but can you touch about your experience about, high school experience, some of the obstacles, some of the challenges you faced and some of the good stuff you faced as well, during ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, until you got into your senior year, but also talk about, if you can also talk about, after you talk about your high school experiences, both of you, talk about why and when did you decide, I need to go to college, and I need to go to college because I need better my life. I want to be a better person that I was 4 or 5 years ago, and I want to come back to the Coachella Valley and make a difference and make an impact on the younger generations after me. So if either Jose, if you can go first, or Cruz, if you want to go first, if you can share that, please. It's really instrumental for our students to hear that as well.
Okay, so just a little background. When all of my cohorts were going to high school and we were signing up for, how there's different academies, programs, and clubs, that's kind of towards what they're interested in or something they might have a career in. So I felt as if I was falling behind because I wasn't joining a career or a club or something that, made me put extracurricular time into school. In middle school, they told me that one of my teachers said, "Oh, you would be a good representative in the ASB," and I laughed. I laughed at her because I thought, at the age I was like, "Oh, that's something like school related, nerdy, da 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 da." Entering high school, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that, and I did. And not I only did it because not just that, but because I knew it was gonna look good on my application. And because I knew a lot of the skills that I learned in there, I actually still use to this day. And we actually have seminars and some of my other workshops I went to on stuff that I learned. And I knew it was going to be beneficial to me. And one of the things I did struggle with, though, is kind of what Agustin was talking about, was making your own cool. So me, I've always looked different. I've always looked like the alternative rocker kid, but I was always very involved within my schoolwork. And I was always within the honors and AP classes. So one of the things I prided myself and would try to invite other people into what I was doing was showing them that you don't have to be a certain way or look a certain way to do what you're passionate about or do something that you really like. And it's okay if other people don't think it's cool because, you know, at the end of the day, it's what you like. And to this day, when I was working, we would do floats, for example. The people that I would work with were my own friends that I would bring into. And the reason they would actually come help with me is because we had a fun time. We actually, at the end of everything, we would eat pizza, watch movies, and do all that stuff. And it was just that camaraderie of making a connection that you're doing something good for yourself and school, but you also have the support of your friends and people who also just exactly what Augustine was saying, the fact that I took on this role and that duality of that life that, you know, I don't look like this. I look like this, but I don't do the typical things. It inspired some of my friends to actually join me. And a lot of them would actually come up to me. And for example, one of my friend Carlos, he was, the typical C average student. And he was like, hey, Jose, I see that you're in USB. Do you think I can join? Because I feel like I can offer my artistry characteristics to, you know, you guys' posters and all this and that. And he would make the most amazing ones ever. And it's just the fact that he would have never approached, you know, USB or anything unless I was there, because he was that connection where he saw, okay, you know, this person is different from the norm, but they're still doing it. And secondly, I would say in my junior year, one of the things I struggled with the most was probably finding a support program. So that's kind of why I joined Upward Bound, or just a program in general, because when you're in high school, you want to go to college, but you don't know how. Like, you don't know who to talk to. There's the career center and there's that, but you want multiple outlets to get multiple perspectives on. So I feel like that's one of the things that I struggled with. And I know it's probably getting better now with the way things have been going. But one of the things I really did struggle with is just getting information on school. So that's why I went to Upward Bound. But I wish there was more of a component within the high school, like a larger aspect, you know. And I feel like that was one of the things that was hard for me. And then to go on in senior year, kind of my experience and going that, I became president of the class of 2016. And I made it so that everybody, when I was graduating, everybody's parents or everybody that didn't think I was, you know, intellectually involved with all these things or involved with so many things, they were just surprised to see that despite how you look, despite where you come from, you can still get things done and still do them just the way you do it. And yeah, and honestly, I've had a lot of mentors along the way. It's just finding them and see what they best suit to you. Just as Augustine was saying, you know, it's just you gotta poke around, see here and there, and see who benefits you most to what you want to do. And
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Jose. Cruz?
Yeah, and I just appreciate you, Jose, for mentioning the mentorship part, because I mean, that's also, I think, is very important for growth, right? I think during our stages, you hear a lot, right? If we focus on the senses, you hear a lot, but it doesn't necessarily translate to what you see. So we tell you, you need to go to college because it will open up these different opportunities. And we tell you, you need to do this and that. You hear it, right? You're able to use that part of your senses. But right now you're in a stage where you can't see it. We say this will come, right? College, you'll be able to travel, but you can't see that. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with and it essentially falls into this component of faith, right? So now I'll go ahead and walk into, like, give you some more context of high school with this hearing and seeing. So I was always told, if you want to become the change you wish to see in your environment, do this and this and this, right? And it was a lot of hearing, but what I struggled with was being able to see that. So again, growing up, all I saw was, again, how I mentioned before, crime, drug abuse, whatnot, and was honestly just trying to figure out how I was going to get the next meal, right? That was like large majority of my upbringing. And if there's any takeaway you get from this, I just want you all to understand one thing, and it's literally up to you, because remember, you're in this bubble, this 4-year bubbles, whether you're a freshman to senior year, you're going to graduate and you're going to either see your peers and yourself succeeding, or you're going to see other peers who went down the wrong path and they chose some bad decisions. And that's the reality of it, right? So there's three things that I did in high school that I'm telling you right now that you can literally follow. And I think you'll be off to success. And it's three things. So first of all is understanding where you are in your environment, where you're at in high school, what your life is currently like. And when I was growing up, I understood I was completely poor. I understood that I disliked what I saw. And I understood that, again, education would be able to take me outside of that. So understanding this, I needed to figure out how to create a plan. So it was really my 8th grade year when I took a trip to UCLA, and I'd never been to LA, right? I've never even traveled outside of the Coachella Valley. And when I went on that trip, I saw so many things. It was UCLA, you see the culture, the people, everything, the cars, just everything. And I fell in love with it. And I had no clue what the school was about, but I said, whatever that is, that's where I want to go, right? So I started to figure out and plan, how can I do that? And so obviously, thankfully I had Avid. And because of Avid, I'd say that really paved the way to let me settle down and think, okay, what do I do in school to set up to where I can go to college? And that'll be my main goal. I just have to get to college, and it'll let me get out of this environment and then come back to contribute and whatnot. So remember, understand where you're at right now and then plan. So where exactly do you want to go next? If it's college, plan right now, because you're in this bubble where it's going to be the easiest for you this 4 years in high school. And whether it's seeing a counselor, whether it's seeing a teacher, if you don't like the counselor, go see a teacher, find someone who you can talk to and put together a plan, because if you don't have a plan, I'm sorry, but it won't work out well. And then so what I did in high school was I needed to do. So it's broken down to 3 things. I understood where I was, I made a plan, and finally I had to just do, right? So I took those courses that challenged me, but more importantly, I also was involved in sports, and I figured this would be a good balance. I focus on my studies, stay away from the people who get involved with the drugs and all that stuff, right? I'll just focus on the studies, and on the side, I'll have my sports, and basketball was that sport for me. I pursue that on my free time, basketball, every single thing was basketball. My life was that. And so by focusing on those two, I'd be upset what was going on at home and all that, but I knew I had basketball to rely on that would be able to bring my mental health at a healthy level. So by following that, really all my 4 years, I luckily had the opportunity to be accepted into UCLA. And more importantly, I was recognized as scholar athlete in the CIF division for the league that I played in. And I also had 2 scholarship offers to play basketball. One of them was at Cal State Fullerton. The other was a full-ride scholarship at Point Loma University. And well, I got accepted to my dream school, UCLA, but not for basketball. But I figured since I want to go there, then I'll head. So yeah, I went into UCLA. But overall, just kind of recapitulating what I said, it's you guys need to first learn one thing from this, what I'm saying. And it's up to you right now, because yes, you have the resources and there's teachers around you, but if you don't recognize where you're at right now and what you want to do, and you want to go ahead and I guess make bad decisions, which you know are bad, right? Or you are now at a point in your lives where it's up to you. And I need you guys to understand that, but also following 3 things again: understand right now where you're at in your life, what you don't like, plan how you can get out of that, and add value back to where community you're from, and add out value to your life in the future. And then do that. So once you put together that plan, actually acting on it. So studies, sports, whatever it is, club involvement, doesn't matter. So I'd say focusing on those for me that was vital in my development in high school, despite the hardships that I faced, being without a father, growing up very poor, moving around, no electricity or water, and so on, right? And I think I've experienced just about everything where, again, you probably shouldn't experience as a child. So being honest with you guys, it's up to you right now, and just follow those 3 steps, and I think you're in good shape.
Thank you, Kidusino. Thank you, Jose. And going back to the comment you made in regards to, you are attending your dream school, and Jose is attending Cal Poly Pomona. Cruz, can you talk about, how was that transition phase between high school to college, and what was some of the programs that, I know you got the scholarship for OneFuture, but what some of the programs that really, first, talk about the transition phase from high school to college, and then if you can talk about a little bit about the how OneFuture helped you out along the way, if you can.
Absolutely, yeah. And the transition, I'd say, I think I had a unconventional transition compared to other people. So when I got to UCLA and I moved out finally, I was like, this is it. Like, yes, I'm finally here. I understood my situation growing up, and I made that plan, and now it finally paid off, right? So I was there, boom. But then the transition to college now was, okay, now you have, and I've always been schedule oriented, so I still follow the same schedule I did in high school with college. But I think the biggest challenge for me was really being able to, now what, right? How do you go about creating a career for yourself, and how do you go about planning that? And you're overwhelmed with all these resources and then classes and stuff, right? So I was a little bit overwhelmed. That was the first thing. And the second thing was I needed to find some sort of backbone that could support me as I was going through college. And I think what really helped me with that was, first of all, and again, this is more when in the future when you guys make it to college and stuff, but it's taking a hypothesis driven approach. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean to get technical, but what I mean by that is if you have an interest, test that out and prove whether it's true or not. So that's what I did. I thought I wanted to do environmental engineering. I got involved in clubs and didn't like it, got involved in the political realm because of Augustine, who introduced me to that. But Augustine also introduced me to someone who's in the business realm. And once I started meeting other people, I started to realize, hey, I do like this realm. And so again, it was just being able to network with people. That's what helped me really identify that goal I'm at, where I'm at today, actually. But I think second, the backbone that I mentioned earlier, which was having that support system. Well, OneFuture played an immense role with that, bringing incredible speakers. And more importantly, what you guys are participating in right now is the Gent Alliance. And I want to highlight this more specifically because, first of all, OneFuture Coachella Valley, they provided speakers who who spoke about their lives, right? Growing up and what it was like. And I felt like I was the only one who went through certain things like that. But once you start to realize there's a similar trend, right? Oh, hey, he experienced that. Oh, she experienced that. And then you realize you're not the only one. And once you can find that community where you can talk about these things, or even if you don't like talking about it, you know that certain people went through it and you're seeing them succeed. It gives you that value of, oh, I can do it too. And you get that confidence. And I think that's what happened to me. But now with Gent Alliance in specific, I mean, being able to attend the sessions in a lot more tight-knit environment where there's a small amount of you, I think that's what took a home run for me, was hearing Augustine speak about how guys can't, there's this weird norm that you can't break of being this man, right? Manliness, whatever. And if I'm being honest with you, I like writing poetry, right? That's my way of drafting out my thoughts, even though it can come across off as feminine. I literally have this journal here that I write in every single night, and it has just all my little thoughts and whatnot. So I think it's just, and that's how OneFuture and specifically the Gent Alliance has allowed me to improve, because there's two things: seeing other people grow. Like, look at Jose. He's now going to become and getting into a career that he wants, becoming a veterinarian. He's closer there, right? And I think that's because he understood his situation. He made a plan and now he's acting on it. So it's great. And being in Gent Alliance, don't just think of it as, oh, like it's just a soft group. No, it's not like that. These are all going to be people next to you who are going to be succeeding and who all went through similar things that you did. And so being able to see that is truly inspiring. So that's, I'd say, is the value of that. And it's allowed me to, again, right now, currently in my status, I've been able to interview with multiple firms, which I'm still in that process right now, with Fortune 100 companies to do management consulting work. So in the business realm, where I'll be helping companies like Twitter, large technology companies, finance companies, go about solving some of their most challenging topics and problems. So I think if I'm looking back at that, and if I was just a freshman just looking at myself right now, I would have never expected that. But it's because I had that faith. And remember, I mentioned something earlier where you're hearing a lot right now. You're going to be in this period where people are telling you, do this, and it'll lead to this. And go to college, or you need to go to college, so you need to do this. You're hearing it, but it's hard to see. I think that overall just falls into faith, right? So just believing yourself, and it just comes down to believing yourself. And more importantly, I want to just leave it off with you guys that it's up to you, right? You're going to be graduating in a few years, if not, and you can either say, wow, I wish I would have done that, and I wish I would have not cut myself short, or I'm excited to be where I'm at right now. And I'm being honest with you, I've had friends of mine who came to me and who chose that wrong path, and that they knew that didn't lead to a good outcome. And they tell me every day that they regret it. And so it's up to you right now. So you can have these people, us, who are helping you out, trying to provide you resources, but it falls into your hands. So whether you want to make the difference, it's your call. And whether you want to listen to me, Jose, and other people, it's up to you as well. But recognize that.
Thank you, Cruz. Jose, if you can briefly on, if you can touch one more, and that last question that I mentioned in regards to your high school transition from high school to college, and how did the scholarship OneFuture impact you as well?
Okay. So one of the things I just want to put out there, just for personal things that I feel students don't experience, but it's not talked about. when you pick a college, just make sure you're picking it for the right reasons. You want to go there because it offers the major you want. It offers the diversity that you want, that you're comfortable in. Like, for example, like, let's say you want to be in a more Latino populated school. Do you want to be in a smaller school, a mid-sized school, or a big school? Or do you want to be close to home or far from home? These are things you should always take into account when you're right before you're going to leave to college or apply to college. The reason I say is because a lot of people are discouraged because once they're there, they realize they don't like the diversity, they don't like the population, they don't like how far they are away from home. So don't let no one tell you, like, let's say you pick a college, don't let nobody tell you that that was a wrong choice. Because for me, just as Cruz was saying, like, honestly, when my dad said that, yeah, you'll get accepted into whatever school you want, you'll probably go full ride, this and that. It was said, but when it actually happened, I didn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe that something that, just like Cruz was saying, it's hard to picture it. It's hard to see the actual outcome. But when I saw that, like, it got to me because I got to pick where I wanted to go. And when I picked Cal Poly, um, Pomona specifically, I got a lot of like, oh, why didn't you go to San Luis Obispo? It's much better. It's much nicer over there. And I was like, well, that doesn't serve to my needs. So don't feel discouraged by anyone be, for a school that you want to go to just because someone's saying of its prestige or something else. And then transition. One of my biggest things, transitioning from high school to college, had to be just living by yourself and learning to navigate um just life by yourself. You come to realize that while you may feel like everything's okay at home, you realize when you're away from family or people that are close to your support system, essentially, it's kind of hard to continue or find motivation unless you find a support system at school. And as they were saying, one of the things that I personally utilized was I was invited to summer bridge at Cal Poly Pomona. If they have a summer bridge or anything, do it. I promise it's going to make school way easier. For 5 weeks, I was at my school before my first semester, and I took one class. I lived in the dorms, and I did just that college life, and it made school much easier. And then once you start getting more and more into college, like your third or fourth year, you start realizing a lot of the stuff from home starts getting to you. In my sophomore year, um, my dad was sick with kidney disease, and it was to the point where we weren't sure if he was going to make it. On top of that, my brother had to pretty much provide for my family 24/7, and he never had time for himself. And it got to the point where we didn't know if we are going to be able to keep our house. And I came home one weekend, and he was like, hey, we might have to sell the house just to keep your dad's bills going. And I just ended a semester with me failing my first class ever. And it just took me down like a dark road. Like, I thought I failed my family. I thought I failed my dad. I thought like everything I did was for nothing. But then OneFuture was there. They had their yearly annual conference, and I went to it. And every single time, like, they would just have speakers, or I would talk to somebody that just gave me my motivation back. That just little talk that I needed, that support system that I needed to get back where I'm on track. And later in the month, Gentlemen's Alliance was created. And one of my biggest things was when I was at school and I was going through all of this, the majority of my people are females. And I love them. Like, I have great friends whatsoever. But sometimes when I was going through these things, I really wished I had a male friend or male counterpart that was also a scholar, very intellectual, and was in the same position I was. But I couldn't find that. I couldn't find somebody that I could relate to and just, confide in them. Because I felt like that, just that male perspective of dealing with all these, like, pretty much like, I don't know if you guys heard the meme where it's like, how am I supposed to finish my test by Tuesday and, increase my generational wealth by Friday? And it felt like that. Like, how am I supposed to increase my family's generational wealth while I'm over here failing? But Gentlemen's Alliance was created. And when I went there, just like Cruz said, it felt like I wasn't alone. It felt like I wasn't the only one going through this. And it gave me a newfound motivation and sense of pride that we have to make this program not only for us, but for the people that are going through it and don't have the mentors there for them. Because us, the ones who went through it, are going to be those mentors that are now going to be there for them. And that's why I believe in Gentlemen's Alliance and OneFuture so much, because they're there when you feel like nobody else is. And they come at the most unexpected times ever in your life. When you're feeling the lowest, I'll get an email and say, hey, do you want to be part of this Gentlemen's Alliance? And it honestly breathes new life into me. And it reminds me of why I'm doing what I am. And when I lost my father, they were there for me. And it was like I felt like I had a family. And after graduation, one of the biggest things you feel is, where am I going to get a job? How can I get a job? How am I going to get a good paying job? While universities have resources for that, the great thing about OneFuture and Gentlemen's Alliance is we form a network, so you don't have to feel that you're gonna, like, you don't know what you're gonna do, and you're gonna end up like the typical statistic where you have a bachelor's degree but you can't find a job that it's for. And that's why I love OneFuture, because they're with you the whole way, from when you start college to when they actually put you in your own career. So yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you, Cruz. Thank you, Jose. You know, it's really inspirational to hear your story and both of you, your struggles, you know, your challenges through your life and your transition to college, and what are you currently doing to motivate yourself and in your next role in life, you know, getting that job, like you said. So once again, on behalf of OneFuture Coachella Valley and the Gents Alliance, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Luis. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Ricardo. And thank you, Cruz, for sharing your stories with us, including an overview of the support services students can benefit from through the Gents Alliance program, and just the stories. I mean, that was powerful. Also, Jose and Cruz, you have been active members of the Gents Alliance initiative since its inception, and we are truly honored to have the opportunity to have been part of your academic journey. In the coming months, you will both achieve another major milestone in your pursuit of your career goals by graduating from Cal Poly Pomona and UCLA. So we look forward to celebrating your accomplishments and helping you in the next phase of your journey toward your career goals. Once again, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Jose and
Absolutely, I
Cruz.
appreciate it.
You guys knocked it out of the park. I mean, I'm thinking like a Dodger now. So you were very impactful. I want to thank you for everything that you've done with the young men today. Also thank Augustine for his great presentation and for sponsoring today's gift card raffles. Augustine is also an alumnus of the Gents Alliance College program and has been an active member over the years. It's truly humbling to see more of our male students graduate from college and then coming back to help us in the Coachella Valley. And we know both of you young men will do that also. Once again, thank you to Augustine for sponsoring the raffles for today's event. We're very thankful and appreciative of your contributions over the years. Students, gentlemen, we hope you were able to learn some valuable tips today to help you explore your own cool and opportunities to increase your chances of reaching your academic and career goals. As a friendly reminder, the Gents Alliance program was created for you. We encourage you to actively participate in the coming months and years so you can fully benefit from all of the resources the community is offering you. If you look across the screen, you will see your team of friends that believe in you. You are the future leaders of the Coachella Valley, and we are honored to work with you as you navigate through high school, higher education, and your career future. Welcome to the Gents Alliance program. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Welcome, everyone.